I'm tired of it. I've heard enough of the pretentious, self-proclaimed, politically informed, condescending people who consider themselves fit to determine what everyone else's priorities should be. I've heard far too much of the same obnoxious tune, especially, but not exclusively in light of recent events. You know the kind of behavior I'm talking about. People saying things to the effect of, oh, it's just pathetic how many Americans are more interested in Miley Cyrus's VMA performance than they are about the situation in Syria. It's just such a shame that more people vote for American Idol than for the presidency. Humanity's doomed because more people care about the Kardashians than they do about what's happening in Congress. America's just a cesspool of ignorance because more of its citizens are reading about the release of the new Grand Theft Auto game than they are about the starving children in Africa. Fuck off. You're not better than someone else just because your genuine interests are political or global and that person's genuine interests are pop cultural or local. You just care about different things, and media interests you devote your recreational time to examining aren't a looking glass into the core of your being. I personally am someone who tends to think locally. I realize that my impact on the world as a whole is very limited, and that if I personally am going to do enough good in my life to satisfy myself, I can accomplish it best by putting forth ample effort into the local causes I know I can affect. That feels right to me. If I learn about something happening in my community that I can help fix, I investigate and act upon it. The farther away, bigger, and more complex and political a problem becomes, the less impact I have, and the less incentive I have to delve into it. For me, I'm not particularly interested in which other country my home country plans to kick the hornet's nest of next. I've observed protests of war for almost my entire life and haven't seen my country withdraw a single troop out of reaction to people's protests. I've written letters to congressmen about things that concern me at the state level and realized that even though I'm probably doing more than what most of those chastising snobs who just read a Yahoo News article and consider themselves politically informed have done, I also realize that my letters, votes, and calls are drops in the bucket and never have the same satisfactory impact that I glean from helping my neighbor out by watching his dog for the weekend, or spending a couple hours tutoring a struggling student, or letting a troubled friend bend my ear for a while. That's me. That's my personal priority. And if my recreational time, apart from my local efforts, is spent enjoying the spectacle of a sporting event, reading an article from the entertainment section, watching a humorous video instead of a serious one, or playing a video game, it doesn't mean I'm contributing to the downfall of humanity. When I attempt to keep up with global political news like the details of wars or what bills are being drafted and struck down in DC, the absurdity of the national debt or the self-collapsing nature of my nation's frail economy, it mentally exhausts and emotionally depresses me. I can only saturate myself in so much negative non-fictional information about which I can essentially do nothing before I'm rendered incapable of justifying doing so. Most big issues are most impacted by people who've carved out entire political careers with a focus on that region of interest. Our time on this mortal plane is finite. The way we spend it is the most important decision we can make, as it's our greatest means of determining the quality of our own lives. When I close my eyes for the final time, I want to do so knowing that I not only lived a life in which I did what I reasonably could to help other people, supported myself and those close to me, but I also want to know that I spent more of my time doing what mattered to me and what brought me joy than I did torturing myself with matters beyond my control. I'm especially not going to do so I can snobbishly call myself an intellectual and scoff at those who don't. If feeling and behaving in that manner makes me some distracted puppet, then so be it. There are those who care not for their local fellow man, but do travel the globe in the interest of those far away, and not everyone can be them. But before you cast your judgment upon the other people for what they find interesting or worthy of their time, you may want to ask yourself just how much good you're doing in the process and Wonder if your priorities are genuinely helpful on that global scale, or if they're really just so local that in all your condescension, your efforts haven't really expanded any further than the contents of your own skull. Do you truly have all the information, or even most of the information about the issue you're insisting everyone else should prioritize? How many sources have you consulted, and from whence comes their information? Have you written your representatives, cast local votes for candidates that you consider yourself in line with, proposed a bill, or participated in a meaningful, impacting protest? Or are you just another slacktivist who read a couple blogs, watched some CNN, and liked a page on Facebook? It's worth asking yourself.